Awesome. So here with Cameron Pretto, he's instructor at the MoveNet course on the weekend. He's also got his own thing, Urban Movement. Just want to talk to you guys, share a little bit about what he's up to. He's also going to be in Sydney and Melbourne over the next couple of weeks, the next 10 days. So could be opportunities to catch up. He's going to be presenting at Jungle Brothers Gym, which is in Maroubra. If you get the chance to go along to that, I would highly recommend it. And he's also open to visiting your gym or catching up for a session or grabbing a feed or whatever.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah, so Cameron's been teaching me a bunch of stuff over the last few days, but I'll touch on that. But just firstly, tell the guys a little bit about your background in movement.
Yeah, right on. Hey guys, Cameron Pretto. I've been living in Houston for about 12 years. Started training yoga about 20 years ago. Got into parkour about 8 years ago. And it was through the parkour community that I was introduced to the MoveNat community. Kind of gave me a different lens of deconstruction and a way of looking at putting together full movements by focusing on the little pieces that make them up that most people honestly just kind of skip through
Yep.
a lot of the time. So really just for the last several years, honing in this vision of assessment of people's movement to
Yep.
see what can be done to just make it better regardless of what level somebody's at.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. I talked to you guys a bit about what we got out of the MoveNat camp, or for the guys in the Real Movement 3 community. But there is like a way of breaking down movement and sort of, yeah, to be able to on ramp people to other styles of training. Like I think it's an awesome preparation for whether you're going to do CrossFit or more strength and conditioning or like parkour and the many branches that I've learned about that exist within
Yeah.
the kind of parkour scene. The MoveNat thing is a really great foundation. So I guess as a teacher of that's given you a really nice base to get people moving in a really safe way, in a fun way, and
Yeah,
some nice technique.
because I think a lot of what people see when they see me move or they see people on our team move is that what we do appears to be inaccessible.
It's definitely the feeling that I had about it.
Yeah, because it's scary. I mean, we like to play around with introducing fear into someone's training regimen but fear from a ground level even first, and not fear at maybe where I might need to experience some fear to feel some growth. So yeah, I think it's that sort of component of being able to show somebody that they're capable of doing something that they otherwise didn't think they were by just building blocks.
Yeah, and that's exactly what real movement, like fundamental philosophy, is to just expand people's comfort zone. And this was something else that got me out of my comfort zone. I haven't been doing any jumping or landing or even much running and some of the tumbling on a hard surface and that kind of stuff. Like I can see that there's a lot of gaps there, and it's going to be fun to fill some of that stuff in. Um, can you talk a bit about you sort of started with yoga, and then what's it actually felt like to transition into what you do now? For guys who haven't experienced it, like what is it? What does it feel like?
Yeah, it feels like maybe when someone maybe tries to find or explore yoga these days, it seems to be a bit more of yoga for fitness and not yoga for relaxation. And I kind of went the opposite way. It was more of a mindful practice from the beginning, where the mind-body connection, especially at the time that I was teaching myself yoga, was the most beneficial and the most impactful part. So when I did start moving through my environment and navigating my environment, my spatial awareness and my self-awareness, I think from that yoga practice is what allowed me to figure out what I could do to improve myself without having someone like me around now coaching me.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. The strict holds and the discipline in those static movements that I was doing in yoga translated a lot to when I was starting to try to add fluidity to my movement.
Yep. And now, like doing some vaulting and doing balancing on rails and getting at some height and that sort of thing. Like you're 37, where like what does it feel like now, and where's it going for you?
It only feels like it's going up. It's getting better. My ability, my adaptability to fear in different environments that I put myself in, I think just gradually increases my skill level. But I think that's just it though, is that I'm constantly practicing my movement in different environments and adapting to my environment rather than trying to adapt my environment to myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing, like we did a bunch of crawling this morning, some base level jumping, different jumping drills, some running, then went into some hand balancing. In between that, we had deadlifts and squats, which is sort of a bit more of what I sort of brought to the party, and then some freestanding handstand push-ups. So really nice session, a mix of stuff. Probably the biggest thing that I haven't been using there, apart from the jumping, is the crawling. Can you talk about what are the benefits of crawling? Like, is it for babies, or is it who needs it?
It seems to be at first, because once we grow up out of that stage of life, it doesn't seem like we purposefully go for that type of ground contact. But being stable and mobile on all four points of contact on the ground, and the transitions between those types of movements, it's a direct translation to anything that we might try to do off of the ground. So the stability in jumping into the hands, the idea of heel elevation and utilizing the ball of the foot for absorption of impact, rather than predominantly in the sporting world, it's super heavy on the heels and not much paying attention to the landing. But once you start paying attention to the softness of the ground contact, even through crawling, I mean, it even makes our upright walking a bit smoother, and our awareness of our space a lot more heightened.
Yep.
Yeah, and the translation, the people who taught me a lot of the Yamak guys who founded parkour taught a lot of the quadrupedi in the way of being this idea of developing body armor, the total body strength that comes from controlled, varied crawling techniques is infinitely beneficial.
So these guys who are doing that crazy parkour stuff, I'm sure everyone's seen something parkour on YouTube where there's guys that look like it's suicidal, but they're poetry in motion. At the foundation of it, they have this massive base of being able to handle being on the ground in different positions, and being used to contacting the ground. And it makes sense. It's the same as what we talk about in strength and conditioning. Like, the bigger that base is, the more your general base of movement and body awareness and spatial awareness is, the safer you're going to be. And this is just reinforcing that from another area. And I think it's another piece of the puzzle that could fit really well into warm ups or conditioning for any session. And a lot of rugby league players, banged up wrists. It's all like contact and falling and that skill of doing that.
Like, from the rehabilitative standpoint, like we were talking about, but also the idea of like what are you getting strong for? Getting strong to just continue to get strong to linearly lift weights, or to develop some strength to be able to use it to navigate an environment, or use a lot of imaginary sort of situations where one might need to scale a 10 or 12-foot wall. So it's kind of like that martial arts idea where a lot of people will train a martial art for an extended period of time, not to go outside and start kicking everybody's ass, but to have this kind of self-defense survival skill to use when they need it. So some of the jumps and some of the climbs and the things that we're doing, we don't do on a very regular basis because of how impactful it is.
Yep.
So you do it at a lower level on a more regular basis, and at the higher level on a fewer instances, but to do it so that we know that we can when we need it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a lot of similar principles to strength training, but then are we, with the strength base that a lot of you guys have, you would actually be able to adapt to be able to jump off a 10-foot platform and be able to drop and roll and walk away from that comfortably with practice, but without practicing it, less so. And I guess for athlete development, it does seem as though there's another piece of the puzzle there. It's kind of what people have been talking about with it, whether it's through Ido Portal or MoveNat, or other guys have been in this scene. Like, there is a bigger picture here that goes together with the ability to handstand, go upside down, back somersault, lift heavy stuff, deal with high forces in that way. This is another piece of that puzzle, balancing, being able to handle falling. We don't fall that much after, Maya falls, every day, and she gets up and she deals with it and she doesn't break. If I fell as many times as her, I'm sure I would have, shattered bones because I'm not preparing myself in that way. So this is how we could do it. Any final words? Urban movement.
Yeah.
I'll make sure I put up a couple of videos of stuff that you guys are doing so we can see based out of Houston. So anyone who's heading over to the US, definitely keen to hook up a camp and get some connections going.
Yeah. We're Urban Movement on Instagram. Urban-movement.com is our URL. We have Urban Movement on YouTube. We've got a bunch of different pages showing some crawling and some of the techniques that we train with and the kind of the vibe and energy we like to have in our community at our gym.
Yeah.
Right on.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Talk to you all soon.
All right, cool.
Champion. This is one.